Welcome to Open Mic.
And I felt myself going. I was in a great deal of pain. It was a very frightening experience. I began to slip. I just sort of feel myself going. And I remember trying to hold on. I'll be okay, I'll be okay. And it got to the point where I just couldn't. Strength I had. I wanted to say goodbye to my wife. It was important to me. And I did. I remember just turning my head and looking at her and saying, I'm going to die. Goodbye, Joan. And I did. And I did. And I did. Like I was always there, and I will always be there. That my existence on Earth was just a very brief instant.
Welcome to Open Mic. I'm Mr. Douglas. Vancouver native Omer Cordell knows a thing or two about the music industry. A professional photographer, Cordell has photographed bands like Fear Factory, KMFDM, Meshuggah, and Strapping Young Lad over the years. His interest in music expanded well beyond the lens of a camera, and it was only a matter of time before Cordell began writing his own tunes. His new project, Trailight, features Cordell playing all instruments as the tunes are a backdrop to famous speeches. Omer joins us today.
Well, talk about the music has the interesting audio clips of speeches or conversations intertwined with the melody. Talk about that aspect of your music and where that, I guess, initially came from.
I have always been a really big fan of kind of like weird audio clips or voiceovers in songs, and I always wished there was a little bit more of that. When I hear an actual song and there's a voiceover in between, I kind of tend to pay a little bit more attention to it because it breaks the monotony maybe of the song, or it breaks the structure of the song a little bit, and there's something that is likely not always fully audible, and you always kind of pay attention to it a little bit more. And so I thought it would be a cool idea to actually do a whole album like that. And I didn't really want to pick and choose just weird, augmented stuff that has no sense or meaning. I was actually looking for something that was quite deep and thematically cohesive to the whole album. And what I was looking for is things that have been said in the past by key people around the world that hold a lot of meaning and a lot of water to what is occurring and what is happening in today's world. So, for example, you have Dwight Eisenhower's speech, his exit from office speech, and he warns about the military-industrial complex and all that such, and the costs of war and warfare, as opposed to where that money could actually be going towards to make a better society and make a better world for everybody, and education, better roads, better healthcare, better this, better that, and instead all that money is going to that. And he warned about the implications of that all the way back when, and we're technically almost continuing that, if not suffering the repercussions of what he has been warning about all those years ago. And then there is another one by Jiddu Krishnamurti. He talks about evolution of consciousness and a growing epidemic of the consciousness being sort of dumbed down by exterior and peripheral things to kind of narrow a center of focus and a center of attention on things that are somewhat inconsequential and so on. So all these things that I was trying to actually write lyrics and make it into songs and such, but I got so involved in those speeches and in those sayings of people that I thought they said it so much more passionately and so much better than I could say it in lyrical form or sing it, and I thought that it fit very well with the music, and it's structured in a way to try not to bore the listener and to kind of get him to pay attention to actually what is being said, and hopefully think about what's being said and further research those things. And that's the one, probably, when we talk about response from people, the one thing that I've been getting from almost everybody who has given me any sort of feedback is like, it really kind of made me think or made me research certain things further. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, who's that guy saying this or who's that guy saying that? And I tell them, like, hey, check him out, check those speeches out and research further, and you'll discover the rabbit hole, I guess, or so much more information about that. And that is probably the biggest compliment that I can get, because that is technically what I wanted to achieve with this, to create some sort of music that would also be inspirational and far more thought-provoking than just a lyricist writing lyrics and singing songs about revolution or something like that. There are people who said those things way back when, that held positions either of office or held some sort of important position in the world, that said these things and warned us about them way back when, and now it is happening, and look at where we are. So that was kind of the idea and the premise of all that, and it evolved into this quite organically and naturally. And I tried to push away from it, like I said, with trying lyrics and such, but it seemed as though the unified force between that actually drove me to do what I did, the way that I did it, was at any point in time I wanted to externalize something, so say have somebody else do a guitar part for me, or have somebody else do drums for me, or somebody else mix the album. I encountered so many obstacles and things got so difficult, and there was this driving force behind it telling me to do everything myself. And I know that a lot of musicians who have been in the industry for many, many years wouldn't even dare to approach something like that and play all the instruments and write all the stuff themselves and such. And I may have taken an arrogant leap, probably, but it wasn't fully because of my intention. I really felt an energetic driving force behind me, actually wanting, making me do all that the way that I did. Because again, like I said, every time I tried to get somebody involved, encountered a lot of difficulties. So it was all done in-house, mostly in the living room, except for the drums.
A time comes when silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal. Even when pressed by the demands of inner truth, men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in time of war. Nor does the human spirit move without great difficulty against all the apathy of conformist thought within one's own bosom and in the surrounding world. The truth of these words is beyond doubt, but the mission to which they call us is a most difficult one. Moreover, when the issues at hand seem as perplexing as they often do, in the case of this dreadful conflict, we are always on the verge of being mesmerized by uncertainty. Some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony, but we must speak. We are deeply in need of a new way beyond the darkness that seems so close around us. civil rights don't mix, they say. Life and history give eloquent testimony to the fact conflicts are never resolved without trustful give and take on both sides.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Omer Cordell of Trailight.
Over the last decade, let's say, you've seen, I guess we've seen firsthand what happens in the music industry. It just becomes diluted, and the things that come out that hit the radio or that are the new great thing sounds just like the last great thing. And I personally have lost interest in a lot of music just because of that. I just go out and either listen to old stuff or really dig to find new things. And what you've done, and it's made it very interesting, is that you've made something that's unique, that stands out, that you represent, instead of just saying we're the next great bar band that sounds like XYZ, all these other things. Was that something that you were going for? Was something different than what everyone is being exposed to right now?
Not on a conscious level. I didn't really want to be like, okay, I want to do something entirely different because somebody else is not doing it, and I should be the first. Not at all. Everything was puzzled together subconsciously. The whole thing was composed, arranged, and done in the back of my head without me even attending to the why or how or if people would like it or not. I mostly did it. Obviously, I wanted to share with people, and if one or two people around the world or anywhere would say, hey, I really, really dig this, and wow, that is flattering to an immense extent. But first and foremost, I wanted to maybe egocentrically prove to myself that I can do this as a first foray into the musical art form for me. And if people dig it, then great. Once I was almost done with the project, and I let other people hear it, they're like, "Oh, that's different. I don't know how well that would stick," and I really didn't care. Have it stuck or not, it wasn't really my intention. The thing for me is that I wanted to create something, and by every musician, and regardless of how saturated the music industry is, and our band of being involved in the music industry one way or another, we have seen the exponential growth in musicians and artists and bands who have come out of nowhere that sound exactly like the one previous to them, and or like you said, the next big thing, and so on and so forth. But again, for me, it's a means of expression, a means of expressing something. People dig it in one way or another. That is a mere bonus to me, and it's fantastic. And the fact is that all these musicians and whatever it is that they're doing, maybe the drive behind what they're doing and how they're doing is blindsided by, I don't know, economic or fame factor. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe if you strip those parameters down and say, if everybody would be famous and if everybody would be economically stable, I kind of wonder what kind of music would they make then. Maybe there is a drive to a lot of bands that are very popular to either keep doing what they're doing the way that they're doing because that is what the fans want, and this is how they're going to make their money. I mean,
so what are your plans as far as, or do you have any as far as the next step? Like, do you get a band around you? Do you try to pursue having a vocalist for your next record, or are you just playing it playing it by ear right now and just seeing how things progress?
There is actually a next record currently in the works already. Over the last couple of years, I've been sketching out some ideas on my computer for new songs, and I do have a very different approach to this, and I think I can already sort of envision in my head and my subconscious ear how this will sound like, and it is very different from this one. I think I did what I did with the first Trailight album, and that was, again, like I said, probably a narcissistic thing for me to feed my ego to say, well, I did it, and maybe the control freak inside me says, like, okay, you've done that, good job, carry on. So the next project is going to be much more involved, and involved, I mean a lot of other people, I'm hoping, that will be involved. Slowly taking shape that way in that matter. I've contacted a few people that I'm waiting to hear back from to see if their schedule and interest permits them being involved. And I'm going to produce this myself as well, and I'm only going to try to just do my bass parts because that is the instrument that I love the most, and probably just peripheral guitars and keyboards and stuff like that, just final production stages, things that I would add on. But I am planning on having other people involved in this. This one is going to be predominantly, I would dare say, 80% lyrical based and song based. So there is going to be a singer. I just need to find him, or I just need for the people who I've contacted to say yes. And if that happens, then great. That is the way it's supposed to happen. And I'm just hoping to hear back from the people who I've asked for.
Thanks to Trailight's Omer Cordell for joining us today. Join us next Tuesday at 1:30 for Open Mic, our weekly program featuring local and not-so-local artists. If you would like to be a guest on Open Mic, send us an email at kgpr@msugf.edu, or you may call us at 268-3739. Thank you for listening and supporting Montana Public Radio, 89.9 FM, KGPR, Great Falls.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of ice. A burden of arms, draining the wealth and labor of all people. A wasting of strength that defies the American system or the Soviet system or any system to achieve true abundance and happiness for the people of this earth. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its science, the hope of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete pavement. We pay for a single fighter plane with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This is, I repeat, the best way of life to be found on the road the world has been taking. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense.
As we peer into society's future, we, you and I, and our government must avoid the impulse to live only for today, plundering for our own ease and convenience the precious resources of tomorrow. We cannot mortgage the material assets of our grandchildren without risking the loss also of their political and spiritual heritage. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love.